So I finally figured it out. So that's the wind. Finally figured it out. Right? So I'm watching the Stranger Things series, and they released the final episode on 25th of December, and I just got to watch it today. So something very interesting happened, right? So we are at this scene, and Will. Will is a character in the Stranger Things. You gotta watch it to know it. So Will, what does Will do? Will, at the end of the season 4, he realizes that he can tap into the vine, and he sort of can control, or rather has access to some of Vecna's powers. And he has destroyed the Demogorgons from killing his friends. And then now we started season 5, where they're like, you can tap back into the hive, get into Vecna's mind and kill him, right? So when he gets into Vecna's mind, he manages to bruise Vecna. But Vecna, in turn, because he's strong, he sort of suppresses his mind and shows him things out of. So Vecna thrives out of fear of people, out of the very bad memories and experiences that you had. He thrives on those things and he grows on them, right? So he shows him what will happen if he doesn't expose a certain fear that he has, right? The fear of him being perceived, okay? So, and Will is holding on to this fear that this is going to happen because Vecna has showed him, if you tell people this thing, then they'll probably hate you and you'll drift apart and you'll be left all alone, right? So at some point, I think towards the last episode of season 5, Will sort of it clicks in his mind that Vecna is using this secret, this pain, this fear against him, or rather that this is what he's using to draw people apart, so that people are butting heads, their differences and whatnot. And then Will calls his friends together, his family, his people, and then he tells them this big secret, that he's gay. He doesn't like girls the way his friends does. And probably he was thinking that they're going to reject him, I don't know, something like that. And it got me thinking, right? And then also, I think another important thing to say in the middle of this, while I'm still thinking about all that, I was speaking to a friend on WhatsApp. He's Catholic and I'm Orthodox, and on 25th I was sort of was giving a rundown of how I became Orthodox. Sorry about that. On how I became Orthodox, and like the whole story of how I actually became Orthodox, right? And part of this story was that I knew in my heart where the red line was, or where I couldn't go. And that line for me was being Catholic. I knew I could explore anything else that was out there in terms of what Christianity is, but I knew one thing, that I would not become Catholic. Because when I was a little kid, I knew what Catholicism was. And what I knew from those days was that Catholics were these bad people who are going to plunge us into chaos and who are going to finally lead up to the coming of the end of days. Literally. So in that way, I feared them. But when I got older and started to understand a few things, watched a few movies, and there was just so many conspiracies around the Catholic Church, and I was like, no, I don't even want to get involved in those things. Okay, then fast forward to last year when I found out about Orthodoxy, and everything started to piecing together, because I did have questions like, why do we have so many Protestant churches? Why doesn't anyone agree with anyone? You find today somebody disagrees with the church elder, and then they quit that church and then go start their own church, and then it goes and goes on. And in the churches that I was in, all of them used to sort of have something dark and evil to say about the other church. I was in the Baptist church, and they used to ridicule the ones in the product in the Pentecostal church. All those what we the prosperity gospel. We used to throw shade to a lot of those people who were not like us, right? In the Baptist, we did that. In the Seventh-day Adventist, yeah. So there was always that. There was something that I'm not like them, so I shouldn't hang out with them. If I hang out with them more, they're going to infiltrate my beliefs, and they're going to make me evil, and they're going to turn my theology and make, I don't know, all of those things. So that is what I knew growing up, or rather that's what I've been exposed to. So when I joined the Orthodox Church, and we got to learn about church history, what led to the Protestant movement. What led to the Protestant movement, the Orthodox Church, the persecution it has endured, the formation, the history of the Orthodox Church in Kenya, what happened in colonization, and all of those things. And in that way, why I chose to be Orthodox is simply because of that at the height of persecution, at the height of where you had to choose between good and evil, Orthodoxy chose good, even if it meant the extinction of the church, right? Because Orthodoxy is not a big religion in Kenya, right? Like, you would travel miles, kilometers, just to find an Orthodox church. We don't have as many resources as you would think to build churches and have evangelism everywhere. And yes, so when I knew about that, at the face of colonization, that the Orthodox Church chose to shelter the people who were fighting for our independence, I was like, yeah, I would much rather stay here. Because at the height, or at the point where people were choosing safety, their systems to keep their name and all of those things, the Orthodox Church chose to protect the people of the land, even though the people of the land were not Orthodox. And I was like, yeah, lock in. So that is why I became an Orthodox Christian, right? So back to the story that we were having with my friend on WhatsApp. So we were talking on WhatsApp, and because he noticed the line where I said that being Catholic was the line, that I would not cross that line, and we spoke further into why I was not gonna become Catholic, why I was and all of those things. The Roman Catholic Church, or the church in the West, was where the Protestant movement came from. That is where the split between what we had as the old church and what we have now as the Protestant movement. That is where it all began. And I was like, they were the reason of all of this. If they had at least kept, or rather tried to remain the same, we would not have the major split that we had from the old church and what we have now as the Protestant movement, or the new church, quote unquote. So I was like, no. And then again, when you go deeper into history, like the Catholic Church, with the Protestant movement, majority of it, at the height of it, when people needed help, when people were dying, when people needed sanctuary, they chose not to provide sanctuary. They chose their safety, they chose their systems, and people died. I was like, the church is supposed to be a sanctuary for people, right? And then you let them die? No, that cannot be the history that I side with. I care about what happened in the past, because I know what happened in the past can happen again in the future, right? Because if that is what happened and people picked the sides that they picked, what are the chances, what is the guarantee that if the world plunged into chaos today and they happened to be the people with the resources, what is the guarantee that they will not choose their own systems? So I was like, no. Those are some of the reasons that I didn't become Catholic because history is just too loud. It was just too loud. And then the fact that the Roman Catholics themselves fought their own brothers and sisters in the East just to bring them into the papal, just to control them. It just no. I cannot not see that. I cannot not see that. We share a lot of things. I consider them brothers and whatnot, but no, I cannot join them and support their history. No. Anyway, back to what I was telling you. So I'm saying these are part of the reasons that that drove me towards orthodoxy and away from Catholicism. But what are all these three stories linking? The one in Stranger Things, the story on WhatsApp, and the whole background story of whatever it is that I'm saying right now, right? The whole thing, I can sum it up, is love and kindness. Love and kindness. Because Vecna is using fear to intimidate the people of Hawkins, right? To oppress them and to separate them. The fear of you are going to infect me, you're going to leave me, so it is better that I leave you first before you leave me, kind of situation. That's what he's doing. He's trying to separate these people because of their differences and the fear of them being perceived as different. Then he's using them to separate them. And then you also come to what the devil did, or rather what happened in heaven those many years ago, right? There's always that one person who does not agree with anything. He wants his opinions always to be enforced. He doesn't he doesn't care what happens to everyone. His opinion matters the most, and that's probably what Lucifer did. He wanted to be like God, and then he made up lies, and then he got people to buy into his lies, and then these people plunged heavens into chaos and caused the big fight that led to some angels being thrown out of heaven, right? And that is what has happened throughout of history, right? We were once a church. We were just one church before everything split apart, and then there came some bad weeds who came up with thoughts, ideologies, and all of these things, and infiltrated what God was trying to make beautiful. And these people corrupted other people, and then that caused the big split between churches. From one controversy led to a lot of splits, and he just keeps magnifying the differences. He keeps magnifying the differences between Baptists, the differences between Seventh-day Adventists, the differences between Mormons, the difference between Catholic, the difference between Oriental, all of these things. He magnifies the difference, and that keeps us separated. It keeps us separated, and we can no longer love. We are no longer loving or kind to the person who's different from us, right? And if we are indifferent to those people just based on what I believe is not the same as yours, then it beats the whole point of being either Orthodox, Catholic, or Protestant. It beats the whole thing, because the blood and body of Christ, the whole idea of Christianity is that God so loved the world that he gave him his son, so that whoever believes in him shall have everlasting life. And the whole point of that was love, that he loved us that much that he gave himself for us. So if I can't love my sister who's Seventh-day Adventist, or if I cannot love another friend of mine who's Mormon, or if I can't love the other person who's Jehovah Witness, then